practice speaking. I want to know how to write a speech. And we actually call that speechcraft. So I wanted to give you a little bit of insight on how I created this speech. Because there's a part of me that loves to write a good speech. 10,000 books is probably one of the best speeches I ever wrote. And when I write a really beautiful speech, I want to read it because I've chosen every word in that speech. But that's not the case here. What I'd really like to get to is being able to speak to an outline freely. So I don't read the speech. So that's what I'm going to try to do tonight. And I'm going to use two types of outlines. And one is a little bit of outline I have written here. I'm going to finish up in 3 minutes. And another outline, which is photos. So I'm speaking to a group of photos. Each photo speaks 1,000 words, I'm sure. So, beginning my speech. You see, for the past 35 years, I've visited Colorado. Anywhere from 1 to 6 weeks every year. Sometimes in the summertime, sometimes in the wintertime. As recently as 3 years ago, I was skiing on a mountain in Colorado. But about 2.5 years ago, I lost my ability to ski. I lost my ability to even walk for a while. Through, I guess it's called a brain tumor that severed part of my nerve down to my right leg. But this year, I wanted to go back to Colorado. A friend of mine said he was planning to go to Colorado this summer and hike the Colorado Trail, which I'd never heard of. I mean, I've been there, I just never heard of the Colorado Trail. And he informed me that it was you bring up the slides here. There you go. The Colorado Trail is 485 miles long. It starts in Denver and it goes to Durango. My friend and his wife are both 65 years old. It was their intention to begin in Denver and walk to Durango, down here in the lower left-hand corner. That was their intention. Here's the craziest thing I think about this. They've lived in Dallas all their life, and they've never been to Colorado before. And I'm thinking, there's something missing in their thinking. Do they know what they're getting into? So, my wife, I can't believe my wife asked me this halfway through our trip. How did you get into this situation? But the situation was, I agreed to go to Colorado with my friend. I agreed that I would help them on the trail, what's known as a trail angel or trail assist, by providing food, water. Usually every 5 days we do this. But they left on August 1st. They flew to Colorado to Denver Airport on August 1st and started hiking out of Denver on this trail. Meantime, my wife arranged for a 10-day stay in a cabin in Colorado at no cost. Now, if anybody knows anything about Colorado, Colorado's a very expensive place to go to in the summertime because it's a short season and rooms run anywhere from $200 to $300 to $500. So us getting 10 days at a cabin free was a really good deal. But those 10 days didn't begin till August 20th, which they had planned to walk 10 miles a day, so that would be about 200 miles into their trip. Fortunately, what I knew about this trip was my my wife and I arrived at this cabin on August 20th. And it was the same day they called for help from our first meeting spot. Now, I wanted to show you one thing on this graph though before we leave this, because graphics was one of my specialties at Bell Labs. And I love this graph. This is a simple two-dimensional map. It's about 1/4 of the state of Colorado, which is in the lower right-hand corner of that map. But what I love is the Colorado trace, face, that there. I love that because if you were to, that has two different axes. One axis is feet, from 5,000 to 13,000 feet in elevation. Those are those, so it's profiling the various altitudes they're gonna be at. But the lower dimension is 485 miles. And I figured if they were both in the same scale, the map would be 485 feet long out one direction. So they're gonna hit a few high points. If you look at the far left, far right on that trace map, that's where they're gonna run into problems. So, next slide, please. So this is the area that I told them I would help them at. Beginning at Highway 50, it's called segment 15. The segments are numbered all the way down through here. Segment 16, 17, 18. But first time we encountered them was segment 15. I'll talk about segment between 21 and 22, Lake City, and then we'll talk about Silverton and Ouray. So the next map, the next slide. So this is my wife and I. This is the first photo in Colorado that was taken. It's taken at a very special place. If you look in the background, there's a little peak there. I mean, that's a little peak. It's about 8,000 foot tall. But it's known as the Santa Fe Peak. It's the first peak that children, generally children, but the adults were looking for it, but the children saw it first on the Santa Fe Trail. So next slide. This is my friends Steve and Lynn. Are at our first meetup, Monarch Pass. Some of you may be familiar with Monarch Pass. It's the highest point on US Highway 50. We met them on the 20th of August, took them back to a cabin, kept them for 2 days. During those 2 days, they went to Walmart and grocery shopped for 2 hours. For food for the next 10 days. This is another meetup point we had. I wanted to take a picture of myself on the trail. That was really important to me. If you look to the left of Steve, you'll see the Colorado Trail symbol. What they're following for 485 miles through Colorado. If you barely look on the ground, you can actually see the trail. It goes back into the trees. And this is one of my favorite stops, and I'll tell you why. We met them there on this point, on this part of the trip. All we did was resupply them with food. So we drove there, resupplied them with food, and we left. Now I hated this. One thing I did not like about this meeting was I missed the Toastmasters meeting that night because of this encounter. But what I did enjoy about this encounter was meeting other people on the trail. The young people. I mean, the real young people. Like the ones down at 29, 30 years old. The ones that are walking the entire trail, not in 6 weeks, but 3 weeks, because they got to get back to work. So they're walking 20 miles a day. I met one young lady. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to her. She was hiking by herself the entire 485 miles. She had to get back to her job in 3 weeks. what a trail angel does in this encounter is they bring fruit, they bring water, they bring chips, and they pick up trash. They take trash from the hikers, because the hikers are tired of carrying their trash. They don't want to throw it along the trail, but they need to get rid of it somehow. So we picked up their trash from various hikers. We gave them fresh water. This part of Colorado is known for high country Angus. And they were telling me about the water that they used there. They would have to get it out of springs or creeks. That water would have a lot of cow manure in it. Yeah, and there are various filtering processes they use. But they were just welcome to get, well, would you give us 3 quarts of water? Yes, I can do that. Next photo. I don't want you to think that I was not doing something. I was doing something in Colorado. This is the hot spring in Colorado. In the background are mountains. They drilled for oil here. They hit hot water, and they created a pool out of it. Next photo. This is them, Steve and Lynn. There's another trail crossing that we encountered them at. They're barely close. They're 12,000 feet. I can tell that from the height of the trees. The trees are becoming very scarce, and they're becoming very short. Next slide. Again, I don't want you to think that, you know, they were hiking all the time, because when they came into town with us, we went to this restaurant and just, I mean, it's really unfortunate none of us drank beverages. Because it'd been a great time to do that. Next photo. This is another spring. We were at Hot Spring. It's in Ouray, Colorado. I've learned a long time ago that you can't take a person on vacation with you if you don't have a vacation. In other words, if you don't do something. My wife wanted to go to this hot spring. This hot spring feeds that pool and 4 other pools that are sitting out here. That's how big it is. My favorite day in that spring was the day it rained the entire time we were there, 3 hours. And you never bother you because you're in hot water. And this is the last photo. This is in Silverton, Colorado. They ended their hike after 404 miles. After 3 days of snow and rain in the San Juan Mountains. So that was what I was doing last week, or last month, my Colorado